Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the January 7th, 2022 WMATA Board meeting. I'm Paul Smedberg, Chair of the WMATA Board. And again, thank you for being with us here today. Before we begin, I'd like to ask Ms. Ellison, Board Corporate Secretary, to please call the roll. Ms. Ellison.
Thank you, Chair Smedberg.
Aye. Or here. Present.
Vice Chair Babers.
Here.
Vice Chair Ports.
Here.
Director Klein.
Present.
Director Letourneau.
Present.
Director Lowe.
Present.
Director Drummer.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Ellison. We're welcome to the Executive Committee meeting, public session here. First up, we have a report of audit matters from our Inspector General, Jeff Charrington. Mr. Charrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have two reports to present this morning. The first is a special project on the Metro Transit Police Department promotion policy and practices. Based on a complaint to OIG's hotline, we initiated a special project review into MTPD's promotion process. OIG reviewed all promotions appointments to the rank of captain between 2017 and 2020 and relevant acting assignments in their applicable WMATA and MTPD policies. The OIG review found that MTPD made 7 non-competitive appointments inconsistent with its general order and WMATA's policy instruction. OIG made 6 recommendations for corrective action by MTPD. To their credit, MTPD agreed to all 6, including updating relevant policies, by July 1st, 2022. OIG will coordinate with the MTPD to ensure proper implementation of the recommendations. Secondly, OIG conducted an audit of WMATA's controls and accountability over fuel for non-revenue vehicles. We found that millions of gallons of fuel are at risk of theft without detection. Over $2 million of fuel was unaccountable due to use of miscellaneous access codes that were used to pump over 1 million gallons of fuel. Further, inactive WMATA employee ID numbers were used to pump an additional 4,500 gallons of fuel. During several OIG observations of fuel deliveries, WMATA employees were not on site to measure fuel, inspect the delivery, or sign the bill of lading, resulting in no assurance that WMATA received what was ordered, and more importantly, delivery drivers were not escorted into the rail yards. At 9 of 15 WMATA fueling locations, OIG entered the facilities without showing a WMATA employee badge. Finally, OIG found that non-revenue vehicles incurred an average of 20.17 hours of excess idle time per month per vehicle. This excess idle time costs over $187,000 in fuel annually, and it shortens the useful life of vehicles and contributes to environmental damage. WMATA management agreed with OIG's recommendations, and in some cases have already taken corrective action. Actions taken or planned should strengthen WMATA's accountability over its fuel program. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm welcome for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Charrington. Does anyone have any questions or comments for the IG? Okay. Hearing none. Before we go to a vote, Ms. Ellison, please call the roll. Or I'll put a motion on the table to accept the report. Ms. Ellison, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Babers. Ms. Ellison, please call the roll.
Okay. Chair Smedberg.
Aye.
Vice Chair Babers.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ports.
Aye.
Ms. Klein.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Charrington?
I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the board for your acceptance of our reports.
All right, thank you very much. With no further business to come before the board, the meeting or the committee will stand adjourned. Now we'll move directly to the Board of Directors meetings. Thank you, Mr. Charrington. All right, once again, thank you everyone for joining us today for the January 27th, 2022 board meeting. Apologize for the little misstep there earlier. I'm Paul Smedberg, Chair of the WMATA Board. And before we begin, we will now formally take the roll for today's board meeting. Ms. Ellison.
Chair Smedberg,
Present.
Vice Chair Babers,
Present.
Vice Chair Ports,
Present.
Director Klein,
Present.
Director Letourneau,
Present.
Director Lowe,
Present.
and Director Drummer.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Ellison. Our first agenda item is the approval of the agenda. I would like to make two changes. First, remove this month's Riders Advisory Council report. But I would also like to note that alternate director Brian Helfer has agreed to serve as RAC's board liaison and will be meeting with the chair this week. So we'll look forward to hearing next about that meeting and all their activities next month. Second, I'd like to defer the current consent item to February and replace it with an administrative item to indemnify the city of College Park. This item is necessary for us to hold a public hearing at their government center. If there are no objections to this change, I'd like to consider the agenda approved as amended. Does anyone have any objections? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as amended. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes for approval: the December 9th, 2021 board meeting and executive sessions from December 9th, 2021, January 13th, 2022, and January 18th, 2022. I'd like to consider these minutes approved as presented. If no one has any comments or corrections to those minutes. Hearing none, the minutes are approved as presented. Thank you. Now for the public comment period and reports by our advisory boards. First, we'll hear from customers and stakeholders who submitted comments to the board. Mr. Pasek, are we ready to begin?
Yes, sir. Mr. Reyes, we'll start us off.
Thank you.
Can you hear me, John?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Public comments for today, January 27th, 2022. Alex Carl from Arlington County, Virginia. Dear Chairperson Smedberg, this comment is in regard to WMATA's discontinuing service to Federal Triangle on bus 16C from Colmore and Arlington. Despite its value to the community, I feel this service will never return. This route is a vital connection to DC since it's the only one of 2 ways to get directly to DC from Columbia Pike corridor. Columbia Pike is the most densely populated area in Arlington that is not serviced by Metro Rail. I urge you to seriously consider reinstating 16C service between Arlington and Federal Triangle and support any expansion of public transit services along the Pike. Before the pandemic, these buses were constantly overcrowded in both directions. Permanently terminating this service would not deliver on promises made for the Columbia Pike Premium Transit Network, which promised increased service to downtown. Soon, WMATA will start service on the new bus line 3Y, which provides service between Falls Church Metro and Farragut Square. I'm sure there are reasons WMATA decided to provide bus services between 2 metro stops that are serviced by the same 2 metro lines. But if this scenario is possible, then why has service not been reinstated to DC on the 16C, where there is no rail access? I'd like to point out that Metro bus ridership has rebounded better than rail in this post-pandemic world. Being a frequent bus ride along Columbia Pike corridor, this finding isn't surprising. Economically disadvantaged residents, those who need public transportation most, cannot afford to live by metro stations, nor can they afford a POV. Buses are their only means of getting around. Bus support access to public transportation for all and help connect Columbia Pike to the rest of the DMV. Your concerned Arlington resident, Alex Carl.
Next comment is from Ronnie Wee, who lives in the District of Columbia. Because of Metro's derailment, I arrive at Metro 20 minutes early to ensure that I get to work on time. On Thursday, November 16th, Metro is on a 40-minute delayed schedule without public notice. Plus, the Metro driver did not impart to passengers why the train repeatedly stopped for long periods of time in the tunnels. Do something about Metro's poor customer service. Please consider automated trains. There will be minimal human error. There will be minimal human error if Metro hires excellent engineers and technology specialists at its control center. See links below. 3, fire your trash cleanup staff at Brooklyn Metro, Metro Center, and Smithsonian. Brooklyn Metro is infested with rats. Metro Center's lower level looks gross, and the Smithsonian trash cleaners are useless. A couple of weeks ago, around 5:15 p.m., the Smithsonian trash guy was shouting loudly near the escalators and threatened the Metro worker in the booth. It was extremely unprofessional. I witnessed the same trash guy frequently standing around, leaning against the walls, not working. You can send him to Dirty Metro Center to help clean up or fire him.
And the final comment for today is from David Weinberg of Montgomery County, Maryland. My 27-year-old son has autism. He will soon be living on his own in Silver Spring with a live-in aide supporting him. We expect that he will use Metro Rail and Metro Bus system with a personal care assistant. I'm seeking clarification as to why his reduced fare Metro Smart Trip card can't be added to his mobile phone. I have this enabled for my Smart Trip card, and it's a great feature. Since part of my son's disability involves limited fine motor skills, this feature will make using Metro much easier. It requires far fewer motor skills to tap his phone at the fare gate rather than finding a card in his wallet and holding up lines when trains are coming. I attended the Metro Accessibility Advisory Committee on December 6th, and committee members suggested my son wear a lanyard and his reasonable accommodation. I subsequently received a lanyard in the mail. While the lanyard may be slightly easier than a wallet, it is one more item for my son to negotiate and keep track of. I'm also concerned that the lanyard will stigmatize my son and publicly identify him as disabled, potentially increasing his chance of being a victim of crime while on the Metro system. Therefore, I am not comfortable with this solution accommodation. I do not understand why WMATA is able to offer mobile phone pass to non-disabled passengers, but is not able to do so for passengers with disability. I believe my son should be entitled to use his Smart Trip card enabled mobile device to ride Metro like his non-disabled passengers. I hope you agree and will see that the entire Metro riding public can use the same technology regardless of their abilities. Thank you for consideration. By the way, congratulations, General Manager Wiederfeld, on his well-deserved retirement, David Weinberg. And that concludes today's public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes and Mr. Pasek. Appreciate that. Next, we'll hear from, and everyone who submitted comments. Next, we'll hear from the Accessibility Advisory Committee Chair, Phil Posner. Philip, good morning. Saw you earlier. There you are.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Good morning, and welcome to Secretary Ports, January's new face on the board. It's a new person every month, and that's terrific. We'll miss the old people. After our holiday break, the AAC has focused on this year's Hedinger Award for improving the quality of life of those in the disability community and their transportation needs. The award will be presented at our virtual bus rail meeting on February 10 because our scheduled AAC meeting on February the 7th conflicts with the first of the budget hearings. Please attend after the budget hearings to meet Barbara Millville, the awardee from the low vision community. The AAC spent the rest of its January meeting focused on the coming budget hearings and the items on the evolving docket. There was unanimous support for the new FAIR principles of customer-focused, simple, convenient, and equitable, as well as seamless and sustainable. This support from the AAC includes a sustainable flat fare for Metro access, which is acceptable to the FTA. This could be achieved by extending the proposed weekend $2 flat fare on bus rail, plus the $2 flat fare after 9 p.m. to a 24/7 flat fare for Metro access. There was also strong support for the GM's budget proposals and beginning implementation of the bus transformation project report, We also spoke with Mr. Weinberg, who you just heard from, and did suggest a lanyard, but did also suggest that he come talk to the board, which he did today. So we're delighted. Someone actually took our advice. There was an excellent discussion of the progress of the 8000 series development with the head of that crew, Dr. Vissier, and WMATA staff, including suggestions on lighting, announcements, intercar barriers, seating, and the potential for use of autonomous safety technology developed for cars and bus on the rail, where there have been a number of recent incidents of deers and people and obstructions on the track. Please consider attending the January 7th AAC meeting to discuss the board's and GM's goals and projects we should undertake in 2022, and to use us as a focus group on budget issues for the 2022-23 budget before June 30, when Mr. Wiedefeld retires. Thank you for listening and wishing you the best for February, as always. And we will miss all of the departing members and love to meet the new members if they will come to our meetings. Thank you. And Ms. Proctor, I know you're not there today, but love to have her come visit our disability group since she's one of us, as well as one of you. Thank you.
I know she has mentioned that to me personally, Phil, and I know that is on her list of things to do. So, all right, any questions for Mr. Posner? Comments? Okay, seeing none. All right, thank you, Philip. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. I get away easy today.
All right, yeah. we'll see you next month.
And hopefully even before that. Okay.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah. All right, take care. And now we'll move on to a report by the chair. As you know, our general manager and CEO, Paul Wiedefeld, announced his retirement last week. Of course, the board was deeply disappointed by this news, but completely understand his reasons. While we will fully and appropriately recognize him at the conclusion of his tenure at WMATA, I want to briefly speak to Paul and his contributions. As I said last week, Paul is an extraordinary executive, and he was the exact right person for the position when he was hired in late 2015. His leadership from day one, including SafeTrack, dedicated funding, and now the pandemic, has served as a model for executives in the transit industry. We cannot stress how invaluable Paul has been to Metro and our region. And while we would like for him to stay longer, he himself said Metro needs a new leader who can commit to several years of service to set a new course. This gives the board time to conduct a national search, identify a successor, and ensure an orderly management transition. We will retain a search firm, and we have taken steps to develop a process to find the next WMATA CEO. Next month, we will report out on our progress. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity to encourage people to participate in the budget outreach process that began last weekend. I also want to stress that this is your opportunity to give the board feedback on the proposed fiscal year 2023 budget. There are multiple ways to get involved online via the online survey, station outreach, public hearings, and more. For additional information on how to participate, please visit wmata.com. This concludes my report, and now I'll turn the floor over to our GM, Paul Wiedefeld, for his report. Mr. Wiedefeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for those comments on my retirement. I really want to thank the board. The reality is a lot of the progress we've made over the last several years, particularly during the pandemic, has been the result of a lot of hard work from the board. As you know, we've had to do tremendous efforts on the budgeting side, and the board's flexibility and the time commitment that the board has made that so much easier. So thank you. In terms of my report, I'd first like to start with the COVID update. Like other transit properties throughout the region and across the nation, the recent Omicron surge has significantly impacted the Metro workforce, particularly our bus operators and our maintenance workers. Since the holidays, approximately 10% of our workforce, roughly 1,500 employees, have missed work due to COVID, making it more challenging for us to deliver consistent service. With cases increasing exponentially in early January, we were forced to reduce Metro bus service to 75% of regular levels. This began on January 10th, a little over 2 weeks ago. While we are still experiencing above average absenteeism, we've seen the case rate decline and employees are returning to work following their quarantine requirements. And now we have 93% of our employees vaccinated and 97% compliant with vaccination policy and testing. I want to recognize our employees who have done the right thing to keep themselves, their families, and our customers safe. As a result of this positive momentum, I can announce that scheduled weekday bus service for customers will resume on Monday, February 7th. So that's great news for our customers, and our employees are looking forward to serving them. So I appreciate the partnership with the union leaders to quickly resume serving our customers while protecting public health, as many customers depend on Metro Bus. As we resume service, some trips may need to be adjusted based on employee availability each day. We all know that we're not out of this yet, so we will monitor that very closely. The pandemic has brought many challenges over the past 2 years that required quick and nimble responses from our operations teams. I want to thank the bus and rail planning teams, operators, and frontline staff who continue to put our customers first. And I also want to thank our customers for their patience as we took swift action to protect the health and safety of the riders and employees in the face of the unprecedented variant surge. Now I'd like to turn to the 7K and give you an update on that. In January, as you know, we made a strategic decision to hold the 7,000 series rail cars out of passenger service for 90 days to focus our attention on the root cause analysis. We're working with our external experts and share information with the Washington Safety Commission, as well as the NTSB, about the data and analysis we have received to date. We are restoring 6,000 series rail cars to meet the service delivery demands of our customers, and will continue to provide updates on our rail service as information develops. Again, we're at the very start of that 90-day pause, and we'll continue to work very hard to get to the root cause as quickly as we can and return the service as quickly as we can. And then finally, I do want to just reinforce some of the comments you just made, Mr. Chairman, regarding the budget. The customers and stakeholders can share their feedback on the proposed budget by completing a survey or attending one of 3 public hearings in February. The online survey is available at WMATA.com, which is also where you can find detailed descriptions of the proposal. We will have outreach teams in our stations and targeted bus locations to reach customers who are riding the system. We're also working with regional partners to share information and broaden our outreach to those in the region who may not have returned to the system yet. We will hold 3 public hearings in February, with a hearing in Virginia, the District, and Maryland. Individuals can participate virtually, which we're encouraging, although there will also be in-person options. The public comment period will close, and all comments must be submitted by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, February 15th. We look forward to hearing from the public and sharing feedback with the board in March. That concludes my remarks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wiedefeld. If anyone has any questions or comments for Mr. Wiedefeld, please use the raise hand function. Paul, I want to ask, your announcement there about increasing the bus service. I guess one of the questions I'm assuming we will likely get, how long is that going to take? What is the timeline there? How quickly do you think some of that service is going to be restored?
Well, actually, there's 2 things that are occurring. We will restore the weekday service, the levels that we had before we did this January 10th, on February 7th. But even in between now and then, the customers will see more buses out there. As we have people, we will start applying the buses out there, particularly where we have routes that are either underserved or under high demand. So as people come back, we're going to apply the buses, but the actual scheduled bus service, the previous service that we had, will start on February 7th, that Monday morning.
Okay. And is this something that will have general information available on the WMATA website or through, our other vehicles of communication, I assume?
Yes. Yeah, we will start that now. I wanted to inform the board first, and then we will start that literally right now. Just so you know, we had to work very closely with the unions to get this all organized and straight. As you can imagine, That takes quite a bit of effort to do that. And but I do also want to caution, that we're, as you know, we're not out of this, and then hopefully that we'll continue to have the return of people, and we'll adjust as we have to going forward.
Yeah, there's already another subvariant that's been announced, confirmed.
I've heard.
We've already seen it internationally, and now it's confirmed here in the U.S. So, Dr. Lowe.
Thanks, Chair. Just to clarify what you just said about how like kind of as available, like we might see more buses. I just want to clarify that probably, I'm assuming, does not apply to bus lines that we're not running at all right now. So for example, like an N2 isn't just going to like wander down the road somewhere. No. We're going to maybe run an extra 33, for example.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lowe. Anyone else? All right, thank you, Mr. Wiedefeld.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Next, we'll turn to the report by the Safety and Operations Committee, and I'll turn the meeting over to the chair, Mr. Drummer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was one item referred to the board from the Safety and Operations Committee meeting on January 13th. Staff sought approval to change the name of the Largo Town Center Metro Rail Station to Downtown Largo, pursuant to a request from Prince George's County. And the county has committed $332,000 to cover the incremental costs related to the name change. Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion on the table by Mr. Drummer. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Babers. Is there any discussion, questions, or comments? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Ellison, please call the roll.
Thank you. I will note that alternate director Zappi is now subbing in for Secretary Ports. Chair Smedberg?
Aye.
Vice Chair Babers?
Aye.
Mr. Zappi?
Aye.
Ms. Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Letourneau?
Aye.
Dr. Lowe?
Nay.
And Mr. Drummer?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellison, and thank you, Mr. Drummer. Now we'll move on to our administrative item. I'd like to move approval of the following: indemnification of the City of College Park. Staff seeks approval to indemnify the City of College Park as part of facility usage agreement. Metro will be conducting one of 3 fiscal year 2023 budget public hearings at the new College Park City Hall in February. I'd like to move approval of this request. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Lowe. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Ms. Ellison, please administer the vote.
Chair Smedberg?
Aye.
Vice Chair Babers?
Aye.
Mr. Zappi?
Aye.
Ms. Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Letourneau?
Aye.
Dr. Lowe?
Aye.
And Mr. Drummer?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the reports by the jurisdiction and VTC. Mr. Letourneau, anything to report? Or if you'd like to highlight?
No, I don't think so. The MATC WMATA committee had a meeting to discuss the budget proposal and receive feedback from the jurisdictions. And that is kind of incorporated in, I think we'll hear in the public hearings, as well as some of the things that we'll communicate during the work sessions. But otherwise, their staff is busy in Richmond with the General Assembly session going on now, and that's about it.
And thank you, Mr. Letourneau. And speaking of Richmond, I just wanted the board to know that myself and the General Counsel, Patty Lee, we were present in Richmond earlier this week. The main activity I'd like to highlight is I gave a presentation on WMATA to the Northern Virginia delegation, both House and Senate. So it was very well attended there. Also, Chairman Phyllis Randall our Chair Randall from Loudoun County also presented on various transportation activities related to the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. So we had a lot of interest in WMATA, a lot of questions, but I thought the presentation went well, and there's obviously support there from that Northern Virginia delegation, and they clearly understand the importance of WMATA, not only to the Commonwealth, but to the region, and the importance to help bring back the economy. So wanted to update folks on that. District of Columbia, Deputy Mayor Babers.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I just want to announce that Mayor Bowser has extended a limited public health emergency. It was due to expire the end of January. It is now extended to February 15th. And then also she has extended the indoor mask requirement. It has been extended to February the 28th. And also on January the 15th, all residents and customers who visit indoor facilities, pretty much the majority of indoor facilities, will have to show proof of vaccination status. And now I'll see if Director Lowe has any additional updates.
Yeah, just wanted to let my colleagues know that I briefed the DC Council at a meeting of the Committee of the Whole on Tuesday, February 18th. There was a ton of participation, and all of council was really engaged. Questions from every single council member. It's really good to have them super dialed in on what's going on with WMATA prior to council's WMATA oversight hearing, which will be happening on February 22nd. So, there are a lot of concerns right now, specifically regarding how school transportation in the district has been disrupted by what's been going on with Omicron's impact on bus driver availability. So I'm sure the news that we can restore regular service on February 7th is going to be very, very joyfully received.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. WSTC, Mr. Zappi, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one item. The Washington Suburban Transit Commission will be holding its next public forum virtually on Wednesday, February 2nd at 7 p.m. It'll include presentations from WMATA, Montgomery County Department of Transportation, Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation, and the Maryland Transit Administration. And there will be an opportunity for the public to offer comments. For those interested in attending, please register on the meetings page of the WSTC website, which is wstcmaryland.org. That's all I have. Thanks.
Nice seeing you, Chris.
You
Federal Government, Ms. Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to note that next Friday, February 4th, is Transit Equity Day. This is a priority for the U.S. Department of Transportation, and in fact, the whole Biden administration. Equity has been a major theme in all of the work that US DOT has been doing, reflected in, for example, the Biden administration's Justice 40 initiative, which requires 40% of federal investments to be made in underserved communities and communities of color. I've been pleased at the efforts that WMATA has been making since I've been on the board, and obviously before that as well, to expand our ability to understand the equity impacts of the service we provide. There's a lot more data tools available now than there used to be to really help us understand who we're serving, where they need to go, what destinations are accessible via Metro service, and just what the impacts are in terms of equitable service around the region. So I just wanted to highlight for everyone, make sure everyone is aware that Transit Equity Day is next Friday in honor of Rosa Parks' birthday. Look for events in your region. There are some going on around this region, and there are some nationally accessible events as well. And I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues and everyone at WMATA to ensure that equity remains at the forefront of our decision making. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all from us.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. All right. With no other business to come before the board, we will stand adjourned, and I will move to executive session. In accordance with the bylaws, I, Paul Smedberg, request that the Board of Directors convene an executive session to discuss the following matters pursuant to Article 2, Paragraph 9, subsections A, budgetary matters that may affect legal positions, WMATA contracts or sensitive relationships with local jurisdictions or the federal government, and C, personnel or labor issues, including discussion of labor contracts, labor negotiation, or interviews of candidates for employment, and the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, or resignation of individuals, and F, safety and security matters where premature release would compromise public safety, and G, disposition of WMATA property or acquisition of real property for WMATA purposes where discussion in public would adversely affect WMATA's negotiating or bargaining position. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Lowe. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us for today's meeting.